Everybody, this is a video to walk you guys through your third essay assignment. So this last unit that you guys are doing is actually shifting gears from the first two. So the first two essays really focused on the same argument, the topic, the stance of your choosing. We're completely shifting gears here, and we're going to do a literary analysis essay over the short story In a Grove. So I just want to reiterate that because I always have students who maybe miss that. You are not writing about the same topic and stance as your first two essays. We are shifting gears completely. You are writing a short story, you're writing a literary analysis essay over the short story In a Grove. So as you guys have looked at this unit, you're looking at different things like how to analyze character or themes or approaches. So you guys get to choose which one you want to focus on for the purposes of this essay. So your prompt is simple. You're going to create an argument about In a Grove focused on a character, a theme, or an approach. Now, an argument in this case is the same as literary analysis. If you are analyzing a piece of literature and you're saying that the theme in Harry Potter is that friendship can survive anything, or friendship is what makes you strongest, that is a theme, and that is an argument, and that is your literary analysis. So don't get frightened off by the word argument in this case. Analyzing a piece of literature, you are creating arguments by talking about that literature, by telling your audience that something is true about that piece of literature. So for example, if you're arguing that Snape is actually, say, a protagonist rather than an antagonist in Harry Potter, that is an argument. So I want you to choose either a character, a theme, or an approach. Don't do all three. That's going to be too much to do. But I want you to talk about what's most interesting to you within the text. So when you're looking at characters, you're looking at behaviors and motivations. You're thinking about things like what are the characteristics of that character, and how do you know that? What evidence in the text suggests that? Do any of those characteristics conflict? So for example, if you have an unreliable narrator, you might have conflicting characteristics. What makes them trustworthy? Why might they be telling the truth or lying? What do they have to gain or lose? And what's the background of those characters? If you're looking at the theme, you're looking at the overall point of the story. So what is the message? What is the author trying to tell you about life through that story? And what evidence do you have from the text that suggests that? An approach, again, is like a school of thought in how we read a text. So this could be something like a gender study. It could be a historical approach. It could be a new criticism where you're looking at things like symbols. There's different ways to read different texts. So you could look at this story from a historical approach, from a feudal Japanese society approach, the samurai approach. You could look at it from a psychoanalytical approach. You could look at, say, a particular character and argue that they have a certain psychological diagnosis. There's lots of different interesting ways that you can analyze a story like this. Whatever you choose, you're going to make sure that you have all parts of an essay or an argument in this case, which is an introduction with a thesis claim, main ideas with evidence to support, and counter arguments as well. So you might say, now some people think about this character as X, however, they are wrong because of blah, blah, blah. The evidence in this case should be quotes from the text. So that should be you showing your audience what you're talking about. So for example, if you're going to argue that a particular character is in fact the protagonist, though they may seem like the antagonist, you're going to want to integrate quotes that show that. What you don't want to do is simply summarize what happened in the text. So you don't want to tell me, in the first part, we met the woodcutter. In the second part, the police chief interviewed this person, and they said this. That is not analysis, that is a summary. So you are thinking critically about this text, and you're creating an argument around a character, a theme, or an approach. So this essay needs to be 2.5 pages at minimum, and is due on Sunday, July 31st by 11:59 p.m. MLA is required. Everything's checked for plagiarism, and of course, you're always welcome to go over. You just can't write less or you'll lose points. You're just going to have the final draft in this case with the bibliography that you submit. There is an outline, I believe, that you'll complete as well, which will be part of your essay grade. If you look at this, sorry, apologies. If you look at this, I've given you guys some example topics that you guys could think about here. So if you're looking at characters, look at things that help paint a portrait of that character that you're examining. Look at motivations and behavior patterns, and then find evidence or quotes that show your audience that. So you may be talking about, say, the wife in the story. You may want to look at her character and argue that she is in fact the antagonist. She is actually the one who is guilty, and show that through particular quotes or pieces of evidence or observations that are made about her character throughout the story. If you look at themes, you could do things like the importance of love. Say that's a broad topic, but the importance of love in a relationship. Or you could look at the idea of tradition versus rebellion, and why adhering to tradition is actually very damaging. Or you could look at things like honor or virtue or truth, and the fact that truth can be subjective, and maybe there is no such thing as truth. Maybe that's what you want to argue, or that truth is shaped by perception. These are just suggestions. You certainly don't have to do anything in this realm. I highly encourage you guys to think about your own ideas, but I wanted to give you guys some things that you might think about. If you look at an approach, you might do a feminist reading of a character in the story. You could do a cultural reading and how it relates to that theme or idea. You could look at a psychological reading, or say a new critical reading about particular symbols or things within the story. Whichever one you do, think about what you want to say about that story. So I want you guys to write about something that you're interested in. If you're really interested in a psychoanalytical approach to a particular character, do that. If you are really interested in looking at how a particular theme is developed throughout the story, do that. You don't have to clear it with me ahead of time, but if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to email me. You are, as always, required to have the parts of an argument, like I said, so that's really what you would include in any type of essay. So it is an introduction with a thesis claim, your main ideas with evidence. In this particular instance, it would be quotes from the text that show this, and then acknowledging counter-arguments with refutations and a conclusion. This, again, is your final essay in the class. This is right up against the deadline of finals week, so make sure that you get this submitted on time. Make sure it's clean and well organized. Include a bibliography, which will have at least the text that you're reading in a grove on it. If you choose to find a source or two, you're welcome to use that as well. Just make sure that you're citing it in text and on your bibliography as well. So I hope you guys choose something that's of interest to you. Let me know if you have any questions, and go ahead and move on.